Please help me welcome to the stage, everybody, from Stumble Upon, Anne Gheirni, everybody. Anne.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Anne Gheirni, and today I'll be talking about the mobile millennials, why the past is not prologue. So first, a little bit about myself. I started my career in the entertainment industry, then moved over to gaming, worked at PlayStation, and then got into startups, caught the bug in Silicon Valley, and I worked in a number of different gaming startups, and then transitioned over to StumbleUpon, where I lead the marketing for our mobile products, StumbleUpon mobile app, and then our video discovery app, 5by, as well as our StumbleUpon Ads, which is our social native network. So millennials. ADD, too long, didn't read. Elusive, on fleek, at least they think so. Social media obsessed. Crazy, 6 seconds only. Bay, YOLO. This is the generation that communicates via social media. They're trophy expecting. They're selfish, selfies. Generation lazy, calls the Wall Street Journal. So why do we care? Why are we talking about millennials? Well, for me, I've dedicated the majority of my career marketing to millennials in the gaming industry and entertainment. I also happen to be a millennial, so hearing these stereotypes in the media, I wanted to break down what do they really mean? Why do millennials act the way they do? And how can we market to them? So why do they matter? First off, over $1 trillion in purchasing power. Over 80 million strong in the US alone. And they make up 94% of all internet usage. So let's go over a couple key facts about millennials. First off, born from 1980 to 2000. What this means is millennials are actually turning 34, 35 this year at the top. So a lot of times what we see in startups is people talk about millennials, they typecast them as a 24-year-old. That's not the case. So when you're marketing to them, you have to realize the millennial generation, when it's talked about, is actually quite vast. They're educated. 6 out of 10 millennials have gone to college, and 1 out of 10 went on to get a master or PhD. They're in debt. So what happens when a lot of individuals go to college is you also have a lot of student loans. In addition to that, a lot of millennials entered the workforce around 2008 to 2010. The industry and the financial industry was a little bit shaken up, to say the least. So a lot of millennials had some trouble in the workforce. They're connected. This is the most technology-savvy generation that's out there. This is the first generation with technology-savvy parents. I don't know about you, but I texted my mom the other day what I was doing, and she texted me back with an emoji of the red dress girl dancing. I don't even know what it means. But this is different. How we're interacting is completely different because we are interacting with technology, and we've had technology, since we were in high school and even beyond. Early adapters. Millennials are the first to take on apps, to take on new products. They're willing to test and try everything. They want to be the first to have everything. It's a melting pot. 26% of millennials, or 46% of millennials are not white in the US. 15% were actually not even born in the US. So this is important to remember. You can't, again, typecast these millennials as a certain individual. It is a vast group. Now, how do we reach them? So first off, how they consume. 6 is the new 60. What does this mean? Well, it means that 6-inch phone is just as important, if not more so, than the 60-inch flat screen. For millennials, this is incredibly important. It is all about mobile. They consume mobile first, but they consume on multiple devices. It isn't just the iPhone. It isn't just an iPad. It's also iPhone, iPad, laptop, iWatch, whatever else is coming on the horizon. Millennials will be the first to do it, and so we have to make sure we remember that when we market to them. Continuous partial attention. When you're consuming on mobile, you're constantly looking, we've always seen, we make fun of people who, there's a number of people out there that have got their, heads in a phone, and whether they're paying attention or not, that's okay. But, you might be tweeting, you might be doing something, but it's continuous partial attention. We're looking at our watches, we're looking at our phones, we're constantly consuming information. Capable of taking a lot of visual data all at once. So we've seen this, like, good design matters more and more, and sometimes it outweighs good content. We've all seen a really fancy infographic or a listicle, so I actually hate that word, but I use it anyways. We've all seen them, and we go, oh my God, this is so cool, I've got to share it, and you share it, then you start reading the facts, and you're like, oh, this is kind of BS, actually. But it's still that, sometimes that, the great design can outweigh the actual content. So what they consume, again, off the stereotypes, is this being an aloof generation. They actually read. The average millennial reads 72 minutes a day. They just find news differently. And this is really important because they're looking at untraditional sources. So it isn't just the Wall Street Journal, it isn't just the New York Times anymore. They are consuming that to some degree, but what they're doing is they're finding sources that are authentic and that speak to them. Elite Daily is one of the most interesting examples. We partner with them at StumbleUpon, and they're a fantastic site. They speak to millennials. It's an authentic voice. Daily Mail just actually bought them for $50 million. Why they bought them? Because they are in tune with the millennial generation. Media Insight Project, 85% still felt news is important. They're still consuming news, they're just doing it differently. So what they consume. Video. It's one of the hottest subjects. I know there's other people that are talking about this. They're taking in video in huge quantities. Watching over 2.5 hours of video a week. 1 in 3 millennials don't subscribe to broadcast, don't watch broadcast TV anymore. They're watching video on their phones. This is why StumbleUpon invested in 5by, which is a video discovery app, because what we were seeing is more and more people are taking in content on their phones. They're taking in video. They're taking long form, they're taking short form. Now here's the unique opportunity. Now when you watch video on broadcast, watch video on TV, what can you do? Well, you take it in and maybe have a conversation with the person next to you if there's someone there. The difference with video on mobile is it's shareable. And all of a sudden, now we're seeing conversations over just comments around videos. So people are sharing it. So social apps. You can guess 75 hours of mobile app usage a month. This is huge. They're logging on more for shorter durations of time. This is something interesting that we found, our data science team found at StumbleUpon, is they're logging on, but it's just shorter durations. And you can guess why, at least anecdotally, is they're on the bus, you're in a meeting, you're bored, you're in a conference, whatever it is, you continue to log on. Shorter durations of time, but overall, it's more, they're logging on more. So what's next for marketers? Mobile content is king. For years, we've talked about content being king, and it is, but now it's mobile content. Now, what's changed? The quality of content has changed. It's being redefined. And what this means is, before it was, if you're creating content, you've got to have this high production value. You've got to create TV commercials. You have to have editing crews. You have to have all of this. That's changing. And mobile is the new standard. DIY. We live in a DIY economy. We are a DIY generation. It's do-it-yourself. So there's all these new tools that are out there, hardware to software. They're giving us the opportunity to create our own content and to create great content, just redefined quality. So what are those? Your iPhone, your iPad, GoPro. These are all pieces of hardware that are producing excellent quality, which before you had to have an incredibly expensive camera to do. And on the software front, it's everything from, now you can get Final Cut Pro, you can get your new iPad or your new laptop comes with all sorts of different programs. Then there's Vine, there's Instagram, there's Snapchat. All of these are content creators. And this is what we see as the new experts in mobile content, the internet stars. I don't know if some of you have been following, but in the last 2 years especially, these internet stars have blossomed. So this guy, his name's Nash Gear. So he's from North Carolina. He's about 17 years old. Doesn't sing, doesn't dance, doesn't come from a famous family, didn't do anything Kim Kardashian did. But he is now has more Vine followers than Bieber or T Swift, Beyonce. Why is that? This guy from the beginning has engaged with Vine. And it's not just followers, because I know what you're thinking as marketers, especially as data marketers, you sit there and you go, oh, followers, whatever, I can buy a bunch of bots too. The engagement metrics will literally make you sick. Because I know as a marketer, you put something out there and you're like, ugh, you scrap for that engagement. This guy's engagement is off the charts. And brands are taking notice. So along with Nash, there's many others. Sean McBride, he is a Snapchat artist. No joke, Snapchat artist. And brands are paying him, Disney paid him $30,000 to create Snapchat art for Frozen. Nash, 25 to 100K, brands are tapping into him. There's whole agencies around just these internet stars on Snapchat, Instagram, and Vine. And there's only more of this to come. Now, I'm not telling you to go out and hire Nash for 100K and that's gonna be your solution, but what this is we're in an economy where you can create your own content. You can look to others to create it, and it doesn't have to be that highbrow content that we had in the past. Is BuzzFeed the new agency? This is something we've talked about a lot, and it's very interesting. So along with creating your own content, there's also a number of content creators that are out there that are doing it better than really anyone else. BuzzFeed's tapping into millennials just fantastically. Now, whether you like BuzzFeed content or not, that's up to you. That's a personal preference. But when you look at what the company is doing, it's really amazing. So they're creating content, whether it be listicles of your, some thematic thing about animated GIFs, GIFs, whatever you want to call them, or it's videos. They're pumping out videos. They have 40 different creatives at BuzzFeed that are pumping out videos for themselves, and you're getting amazing engagement. So why are they an agency? Because on top of creating these videos, they're also distributing it. They're media buyers. So they create this great content, and they're creating it for brands. So on top of creating content for just their users for entertainment, they're also doing advertorials. They're creating this content for some of the biggest brands in the space. And a lot of those brands are going directly to them. This is what makes them kind of a new agency. So when we think about this, and then what their next step is, so they can get that out to the BuzzFeed audience, that's great, but then they gotta get it out to that next layer, and that's where they use social media. Facebook, boosted posts, I'm sure many of you have tried that before. Pinterest promoted tweets, sponsored, or Pinterest promoted pins, sponsored stumbles, promoted tweets. All of these are opportunities to get your content out there to the next level. The rise of social native. This is what we're talking about. So David Ogilvy wrote in his memoirs, word of mouth is like manna from heaven. It's a gift, it really is. Except we don't know how to do it on purpose. Word of mouth is incredibly difficult. Everyone who's a marketer knows that word of mouth you get your best users, the highest engagement, but it's difficult. Well, at least it was until social media came around. And now with social media, we can do it at incredible efficiency. And not only that, but we can track it. So what this does is social media, all these social media sites have also begun to pay attention. And they're now freemium products for brands. So yeah, you have your Facebook page, you rent that space on Facebook, and you can post organically for free to all your users or whoever Facebook allows you to post to on that given day. But then if you want to get more, they give you the opportunity to get to that next level. And that's with social native, because you are then allowed to boost that post to a whole nother segment of defined users. This is a huge opportunity, because what we're talking about here is amplification marketing. This is what BuzzFeed's doing. They're taking their great content and they're amplifying it throughout social. And why social? Social is mobile first. Now, in Silicon Valley, San Francisco, where I'm at, you go to all of the major social media companies, all of the, everyone is thinking mobile. Have you ever gone on the mobile web version of a piece of content on Pinterest, on Facebook? They push you, sometimes annoyingly, but I get why, because the metrics on the applications are so much better. They push you to download the app. They want you there. They know it's sticky. They're mobile first. Another thing that's interesting about social native is that it promotes good content. So with Facebook and with StumbleUpon, with our sponsored content as well, it's not just, you could have a really terrible piece of content. You could put it out there and you will get to whoever, is predefined people that you are trying to reach. But in order to get more, in order to get to that next layer, you have to have good content. And when you do, you get earned media. Same with Facebook. The better the content, the more it gets out, the lower the click-through rate. Or the lower the CPC, the higher the click-through rate. And native spending is booming because of this, because of social native. Native is one of the most interesting channels right now, and social native is leading the way. 7.9 billion in 2014 to an estimated 21 billion in 2019. This is something as marketers you just can't ignore. But why? Why is social native, why is amplification marketing, why are these channels so important right now? Because we live in a post-banner ad world. So one of the key pieces around social native, around amplification, is they're mobile first. One of the things that we also know is mobile banners suck. I hate to say it, but they are awful. Anyone who's bought mobile banners, they are so difficult. The KPIs are just pathetic to say the least. They're small. If you try to click on them, you can barely read anything. You can have about 2 words in a call to action. That's about all you can do, and hope for the best. Half the time, people kind of fat finger your actual, trying to get away from it. Interstitials ruin experience. I did ad mediation at a company before, and it's like a sugar high. You keep wanting to throw these full screen interstitials out there because the CPMs are so much higher. But every time you do, the user experience is just terrible. Everyone's been there where you're clicking through a great piece of content and you get blasted in the face with a full screen pop-up. So in this post-banner ad world, native and amplification marketing stand out. Why is that? Because it's natural. You don't have a banner ad on Facebook as you're scrolling through and you see a promoted post. It's natural. It's in your newsfeed. And yes, it still can be a nuisance, especially if it's not targeted correctly. And then their engagement scores will be less and it's going to be harder for them to get it out there. But it becomes part of the experience. So social media's realized that, and content producers, from BuzzFeed to even the smallest producers, are realizing that this is the ways and means to get there as well. And millennials are responding. Again, the KPIs, when you compare the metrics on regular banner ads to desktop banner ads to mobile banner ads to social native absolutely destroys them, especially on mobile. And so if you're a marketer and you're creating this great content, if you build it, they won't just come. You can create the best content out there, but you have to also distribute it. And as we all know, creating content is kind of, it takes a lot of time. Even if you're not spending a ton of money, you're testing, you're repeating, you're looking, you're trying to create the best piece of content for your audience. So get the most out of it. And that's where amplification comes in. So what do millennials want? They want quick, slick, quality content. And here's the key, they don't care where it comes from. So again, we go back to that BuzzFeed example. BuzzFeed, and I encourage you, if you don't look at it and you're trying to target at millennials, take a look at BuzzFeed. And as you're scrolling through and as you're laughing or rolling your eyes, whatever you're doing through their listicles and animated GIFs and slapstick videos. What you'll also see is all of a sudden you see, oh, this one they're in Target. Why is that? And I think there was one where they were talking about fanny packs and they were using shopping carts as fanny packs. Who knows? But it got incredible engagement and it actually did not feel like a Target ad. So if you're Target, if you're one of these companies that's trying to reach this millennial audience, this offers a whole new opportunity. Because millennials don't want to be talked down to. They don't want to be disrupted in their mobile experience. They want it to be as natural as possible. And what's also interesting about this social native world is it's very easy to ignore. So this is again why social native promotes good content. Because if I don't really like that Target ad, I'm just going to pretend like I didn't see it and keep swiping. If I don't like that promoted stumble, I'm just swipe through it. So the better the content, the better the user experience, the better your KPIs will be. So some key takeaways. Millennials are rabid consumers of content. They are taking in content faster than any other generation, and that's because they're mobile. Most of the time, they're viewing it on a 6-inch screen, maybe even less if they haven't updated yet. So when you create content, create it. Mobile is the new standard. Create your content for mobile first. Design and visual excellence is crucial for mobile consumption. Again, back to that infographic. So the infographic, the listicle, you can easily see this content on mobile. It isn't about little font, it isn't about blocks of text. It's about creating this content that's easily digestible, that's easy for someone to see, whether they're on the bus, whether they're laying in bed, whether they're sitting in a movie and they don't want to watch it, they can take in this content very easily. Don't dumb down content. Make it succinct, authentic, and to the point. As we go back to the facts about millennials, we remember that this is an educated generation. This is the generation that went to college more than any other. So a lot of the stereotypes that are initially built in is about, we think about the emojis. We think about how crazy and sometimes dumb this generation might act. But the reality is this is the most educated generation that's out there. Engagement over clickbait. There's a lot of options out there. Don't fall under the clickbait. There's a number of different ways that you can distribute content utilizing clickbait. We all see it. We see it as we scroll down to the bottom of the screen and there's that weird piece of fruit that looks like an eyeball that we always end up clicking on because you're like, what the hell is that? And there is some, depending on what site you're on, there's probably someone who's scantily clad. Don't fall into it, because what ends up happening is, yes, you'll get those impressions. At least you'll get the initial impressions. You'll also get an incredibly high bounce rate. You're gonna be charged on those clicks. And at the end of the day, your audience is gonna feel tricked. And that's the last thing that you wanna do. You want good content. You don't want to throw clickbait out there. So invest and test in great content, again, for mobile. And take advantage of the ecosystem to amplify and distribute. There's opportunities out there. Again, we talk about these being freemium opportunities, especially for brands and publishers. You don't have to spend a ton of money. This is also what makes social native and makes these opportunities unique, especially on mobile, is these aren't $10,000 IOs that you have to sign. What these are opportunities for you to start testing. Whether you're A/B testing different types of content, you put $20 here, $100 there, whatever it may be, you don't have to go in. You don't have to jump 2 feet in with everything that you do. You can go after, promote something on Facebook, on Twitter, whatnot, and you can throw it out, see how it performs, retract that spend if it's not performing, and bump it up if it is. And what's different about that is I know there's a lot of marketers and any media buyers that are in the room, as I do a lot of media buying myself, it's the hardest thing to sign that big check and then walk away. And this is another thing about millennials. We hate taking our hands off things and just walking away. Oh, that algorithm's gonna figure out better than we are as to how to get that audience and how to get that click-through rate. We'd rather test, repeat, look at the data, figure it out. So again, this is where social native, this is where these opportunities really enable people to take advantage and to really promote great content. And remember, the past is not prologue. Don't get stuck in what's been done in the past. A term we use a lot, especially in the Valley and in San Francisco, is being agile. Like, this is really important. Don't get stuck doing what's been worked before. Don't take that data, learn from it, and go forward. But don't get stuck because, oh, hey, millennials did this and this 5 years ago. Remember, this is a big generation. This is not one that can be easily typecast. And just because it worked 5 years ago, well, 5 years ago, 2010 was a completely different market than it is now. So you have to start thinking through these problems and continuing to change and adapt. And this is what's so great about this industry right now, is there's tons of opportunities to test and to find what is the right strategy for you and what is the right strategy for your brand. So thank you very much for paying attention, listening. I really appreciate it. Please feel free to connect with me, and I'll be around later on today if there's, I think we have time for a couple questions if anyone has any, but otherwise I'll be around. Connect with me on Twitter, on LinkedIn, and if you have any questions about Social Native, please reach out.
I'll tell you, I can do that.
Thanks.
And Gheirni, everybody. All right, so we got a little bit of time before the next breakout in here, and if you're sticking around here, this is the Bing stage. We're going to have Matthew Kapala, who's a professor from NYU.